Welcome to another edition of the X Zone TV show. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Check us out on the web at www.xzonetv.com, and you can always listen to the X Zone radio show 724-365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Joining me today is a lady who is going to explain to us how your face can be read and what your face says about you without you even knowing about it. Joining me from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. is ROSETREE. And Rose, welcome to the X Zone TV show.
Greetings, everyone. Rob, what a pleasure.
Rose, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided, or what was it that prompted you to become the face reader?
It began as a hobby, and I turned pro in 1986. What I love about face reading is that it is the easiest way to wake up deeper perception about other people and about yourself. It's so easy to learn, it's accurate, and it really gives you a big range of information. That's why I love it. That's why I love to teach it.
Rose, what was it like the first time somebody asked you professionally to read their face, and did you blow them away?
You know, I don't remember, but that's probably a good thing. It tends to. The most recent time I was at an event where I was reading faces for a very sophisticated group of partygoers. It was extremely typical. I wound up reading faces. The gig was extended. I read faces about 4 hours straight. Not a single person said that's not accurate. Instead, they were moved. They kind of woke up in front of me, some of them, because it's really validating to learn how something as simple as a part of your face that you've taken for granted and maybe even noticed before, didn't notice. In that way, you just put makeup on it or whatever, and all of a sudden it's meaningful, and it's about how you deal with power or communication or sex or how you deal with money. There's all this bunch of information right in your face, and yeah, people love to gain that kind of insight.
So a person would go to you for a face reading. Why?
In order to learn who am I and how do I seem to other people. Or sometimes people want to get their faces read for business purposes because they want to be more effective. And if you lead from your strengths rather than trying to be everything to everybody, you're going to be more successful. Sometimes people come for face readings because they're in a life transition, like getting a divorce or getting married or becoming a grandfather, and they just want to look at what's there now instead of what used to be there and have it go with self-esteem. This system of face reading that's trademarked in the United States, Face Reading Secrets, is a system that's based on the premise, God don't make no junk. And with that as the basis for the accurate information, it really tends to uplift people along with being practical.
So is it every aspect of a person's face that holds a little bit of the jigsaw puzzle?
Every aspect does. In fact, I think the best analogy about what an amazing treasure trove of information faces can be is if you've ever seen one of those Advent toy calendar candy things for kids, and you know there are all the doors in the picture, and every day you open up a new door and out comes the candy. Well, a lot of us were raised to think eyes are the windows of the soul, that's all. That would be like only having a couple doors, but actually your cheeks, well, here's my pointer, your cheeks and your eyebrows, your ears, your jaw, your chin, your nose, there's like so many doors because every one of those facial features has many categories within it. You've got hundreds of items of face data, and every one in the system that I use, there's a gift of your soul, a talent for how you do something in life, and then there's a life lesson or a potential challenge that goes with the territory. And so you're getting all this candy of information by having your face read or learning to do it yourself with my how-to book, The New Power of Face Reading.
All right, RoseTree, stand by. We've got to take our break. Exo Nation, RoseTree is my special guest this hour. We're talking about what your face says about you. Now, when we come back, we're going to be giving Rose a picture of a celebrity, and we're going to hear how Rose tells us about the celebrity's most deepest secrets based on their face. Her website is www.rosetree.com, and my name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Check us out online at www.xzonetv.com, and you can listen to the X Zone Radio Show, 7/24/365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Rose and I will be back after this break. Don't go away. What does your face say about you, Exo Nation? My guest this hour is RoseTree. She's joining us from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. via Skype. Her web address is www.rosetree.com. Now, Rose, I'd like you to tell me what you see as a professional face reader when I show you this photograph of Pope Francis.
Ah, what fun. So, face reading is not expression reading. You choose one item of face data at a time. And I think the first thing I would comment about with this Pope is his passion power style. And by the way, when I talk about face data and how to interpret it, if you're watching this or listening and you can find a mirror, you can look at your own face and see if you've got it. The one trick is look on the level. All over the world, when I teach people, they often start off like looking down at themselves, and that's not a nice thing to do to yourself. So look on the level. If, like Pope Francis, you've got the passion power style, what that means is that the forehead is wider than your cheek or below your cheek on your face. And he's got that on both sides of his face. So that's an interesting characteristic. And what that's about is a power style or a way of getting what he wants, where he has ideas, concepts, maybe ideals about what he'd like to do. And to him, the obstacles that he might have to go through in order to pursue his ideals, they don't seem real to him the way they do to most people. He'll just go for it. And of course, he's steering a big ship, the Catholic Church. Still, this is a powerful style to have for leadership. 1 in 4 American presidents has this leadership style, whereas with regular people who aren't that big leaders politically, it's more like 1 in 200 people has it even on one side of the face. So the potential challenge that goes with this talent is being incredibly inwardly intense. And it's like the opposite of being laid back. And I can't resist mentioning that a certain Rob McConnell has this same item of face data on both sides of the face, especially the side about career, the right side of your face.
Gotcha. Let me ask you a question. If, let's say, you read a person's face who's 20, 21, okay? And as they grow, their facial characteristics change. Does that mean their life is going to be changing?
Well, you think?
I don't know. You're the expert.
But Rob, see, that's really a very important question you've asked. There's a reciprocal relationship between the physical face and who we are deep inside, what you could call the soul. And we have different characteristics as a soul. Now, usually what happens is we evolve on the inside, we change and grow here at Earth School, and then the face goes along and there are physical face changes. We can also get cosmetic surgery and then we change on the inside because it's a reciprocal relationship. Still, it is absolutely true that faces change. And one of the reasons to learn face reading, I think, is that you can actually see and identify it rather than use meaningless, sad cliches like old now, past prime, expiration date nearing. Forget about that. Your face evolves. And actually, Rob, 90% of your face data can change over time. It's just that most people aren't looking for it. They miss it. They're so busy looking at eyes and expression.
So let's say a lady goes and gets Botox treatments, and it changes her facial expressions and her appearance. Is this like genetically modifying a human being?
I'm not a geneticist, so I can't comment on that, but I would warn everybody who's in the audience, please avoid Botox, because there is this reciprocal relationship between who you are inside and your face. And this is an example of changing something to the face for social purposes, and maybe you'll get some points for having a washboard forehead. But in terms of what it does on the inside, it numbs people. It numbs people's consciousness just a little bit, and then it wears off. And then maybe somebody does it again and gets a little new dose of inner spiritual numbing. Is that trade-off really worth it? I don't think so.
Rose, you and I have to take our break. We'll be back on the other side of this short break. When we come back, let's talk about Nelson Mandela. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. RoseTree is my special guest. www.rosetree.com. Don't forget to check us out online at www.xzoneradiotv.com. And the X Zone Radio Show is heard 7/24, 365. But for the X Zone TV show, who's coming? To send us questions, to send us comments. Your input is important. www.xzonetv.com. My name's Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this break with RoseTree. Don't go away. What does your face say about you? Well, according to my expert guest this hour, RoseTree, it says a lot. Now, if you'd like to find out more information on RoseTree or how you could actually take a course and learn what your face says about you, visit our website at rosetree.com. Now, Rose, before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about Pope Francis. Now, we're bringing up a picture of Nelson Mandela. What does that tell us?
Cheeky man.
Cheeky man.
Cheeky man.
Cheeky man.
The late Nelson Mandela. Look at those cheeks. They have some very powerful characteristics. One thing is that they're prominent. They're really, they pop out. The other thing is that they have what I call a far set emphasis. In other words, where they pop out most is out to the sides. And this combination is extraordinary because what it's about is leadership. All the cheek characteristics are about leadership. And the prominence is about having a very courageous, right out there kind of role that he can step into, that he's willing to do that. And of course, we know he did. And the far set cheeks are about using one's power for long-term projects or causes. And maybe you heard about 27 years in prison. There are other people with far set cheeks who've also done things that took a long time. I think of Clara Barton, who was the founder of the Red Cross. It took a long time for her to get that going. And it's just a tremendous gift if you have that kind of stamina for leadership over years and years and maybe decades. The potential challenge is that there might be a tendency to take on projects that are more difficult than most people would be willing to take on, and thereby go through a lot of frustration on your path to greatness.
So it would seem to me that face reading would be very helpful to those members of Congress and Senate.
Oh, it sure would. You know, the desire to understand people better could be part of an increase in civility that we sorely, sorely need in the United States. Plus, if you're sincerely interested in getting things done, then it helps to know more about who that other person is inside. You know, the face can tell you about inside. It's not a substitute for communicating and paying attention to objective reality, but for gaining insight, it's such an easy way to learn about people in person or from photographs.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to you, and you know, we were talking about politicians and how it could be useful to them. But I would think that if teachers were to use face reading, just imagine how we could help the people that are going to school and how we could better guide them to help them in their lives.
That's true, especially teaching kids over the age of 18, because we don't ethically do face reading on people who are younger.
But it could be done.
For young adults, it's such a big deal because there's such a quest to figure out who am I. And today we see a lot of kids who are reaching out to find out who they are through electronic connection and responses from other people. It really can fast track you to maturity and power, personal power in life, to understand more who you be, quite apart from the reinforcement you get from other people.
But why couldn't we use it on younger children who are just getting into their formative years to help them get a better handle on life?
That's a great question. Well, first part is that face reading is not expression reading. So face reading is about the physical data. It turns out, Rob, that until the age of 18, faces physically change enormously. And you know, you're a dad, right?
Yeah.
So one day your kid might look more like your beautiful wife, whose photo I've seen. One day your kid might look more like you. They change a lot. They're almost like Jell-O that you make, and it hasn't quite gelled yet.
You know,
by 18, it gels.
You know, that is so true, and that is so true. But they're always her kids when they do something bad, and they're always my kids when they do something good. Rose, we've got to take a break. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial with our special guest, ROSETREE, as we wrap up this edition of the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. Visit us online at xzoneradiotv.com. And for the X Zone TV show, you know it. Take a look at your screen, xzonetv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. ROSETREE is our special guest. We're talking about face reading this edition of the X Zone. Her website is rosetree.com. Now, Rose, we're going to throw an unexpected face reading to you right now because we didn't want you to have time to prepare. So, are you ready?
Sure, looking forward to it.
All right.
You know, this is like being able to read words in a book.
That's true.
It's not hard to read somebody new. You do not have to prepare.
Okay. Read my face.
Aww, I happen to know and love this face, but I'll put that aside now and just look at you like a face reader. And I want to talk about the kind of mustache you have at this time. And what you have is a lip hider mustache. You can see which lip is being hidden there,
mustache.
Right, Rob?
Okay.
And so this is, first of all, the talent that goes with this kind of mustache is that you show yourself with strength and virility, with letting your power really be evident.
Okay.
To such an extent that it is speaking for you in contrast to what happens when the upper lip shows. When the upper lip shows with no mustache, then the upper lip has information about speaking about things that are deeply personal. whether you're how you're doing with your health or what's going on with relationships, etc. You know, the deeper, more personal, growthful things that are human. And by covering up that upper lip, there's more of a speaking about the things that would be good in public to say about yourself, like that adorable joke you told before about your kids and their faces changing. And a bit of the potential challenge is a withhold of sharing that. Not that you would necessarily be doing that as a broadcaster for the X-Zone Nation. Still, for your personal relationships, that's a consequence, a potential challenge of having that form of mustache, that it might be a little harder for the people who know you and love you in your personal life to find out things that are really personally going on with you as a human. So there's that. And if you want, I could talk about a different kind of mustache, or I could talk about something else on your face. Oh, could we go to your angled eyebrows?
Sure.
What do you think?
Sure, go right ahead. We've got about 3 minutes left.
All right, great. And you only have 2 eyebrows, so that'll work out great.
That I know
You know,
of.
they have deep angles. There's a hinge place in each eyebrow, and it's a very extreme version. And this characteristic is in the category of eyebrow shape, and what it's about is having what I call a managerial mindset, meaning that you don't just hang out with people and flow with it in some of the other ways that go with different eyebrow shapes. I think you have a kind of detached perspective where you look back almost from a distance, although you're part of the scene, you're observing and you're calculating in a nice way, not a Machiavellian way, of course, but you're calculating, is this working? Is this what was promised? How is this going to facilitate what I'm trying to do? And in that process, it helps you be more effective in, for instance, the broadcasting field. I know, having done interviews with you before, you really take those interviews far. There's no plod in an interview with Rob McConnell. The potential challenge with angled eyebrows for you and for anyone in the audience who has it as well.
The rest of us anglers. The potential challenge is
intimidating people without having done a thing. So if that happens, don't blame you. Blame people who have something to hide and don't feel comfortable with having somebody observing in that sort of detached managerial way.
I see. So to all us anglers out there, we're, we hold the cards. There you go. Listen, Rose, we've got to say so long for tonight shortly. Let our listeners know where they can get copies of your books and what you're going to be up to in the next year.
Well, thanks. There's a toll-free number for ordering all my books. It's 800-345-6665. And there's also my website where you can learn about those books and my workshops. The next thing coming up here is that in April 2015, I'm going to be teaching my annual Empath Empowerment workshop. And I also teach skills for my trademark system of aura reading and cutting cords of attachment. If you go onto my website, you can learn a lot about the different facets of the system now called ROSETREE Energy Spirituality. And of course, you're also welcome to become one of my clients. You can learn about that at my website as well.
All right, Rose Rosetree, thank you very much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you and seeing you, my dear. Keep the great work up. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like more information on Rose Rosetree, visit her online at roserosetree.com. Well, that's it for this edition of the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and to everyone out there, from everyone here, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light. Good night, everyone.